Starting on page 5, we are at a section called Designing a Water and Sewer System. The first step in our process here in the course will be to do water lines. So we're going to choose to start learning by adding a few water lines here into our project. As you can see with the exercise, we have the water line dialog. We name the water line in the database, in this case WL-1. We choose how the water line is laid out via an element in the design file or an alignment from our coordinate geometry file. We assign a type and size to that element, and then we assign a depth, a clearance between other pipes, and how often along that alignment or element do we want to sample the ground elevation to come up with a depth in a design. So it's a short process of approximately 8 steps, and we'll walk through those right now. So back into my design file, I'm going to focus on creating a water line WL-1, and I'm going to be using this element here to define it. So I will zoom into that area. And I will simply go to my water sewer pull-down menu, lines, water, and add. Based on my project preferences, it's already populated the line ID. I can give it a description, although that is optional. I'll click OK, and I've named my first water line. Now I simply choose the alignment portion. I'm going to select an element here. So I toggle on element, click select, select the blue dashed element that represents the alignment of my water line. Noticing in the lower left corner it says accept or reject, so that requires me to data point or left mouse click again. Again, looking in the lower left corner, I see define flow direction. So as I move my mouse cursor location up or down, the flow direction will change. And I'll go ahead and have it flow straight to the bottom. So that defines my alignment. Now I need to define the size of my water line. Now we can design the size by a user-defined pipe or a library-defined pipe. We'll do the first one as user-defined, and we'll come back and do the library next. One thing that I have to have in order to move forward with the water line is I have to choose an item out of my Design and Computation Manager database, or DDB file, that represents this water line. So I have to have an item set up in my DDB file that tells the program how to draw, what level, color, and weight to draw the water line on. So if I look at my DDB, under Pay Item, under Water Utilities, I've got several folders under there, and one of them is Pipe PVC. So I'm going to choose the Pipe PVC folder, and in there I've got several items that are set up. I'll choose the 12-inch water line. I'll highlight it and click OK. Now embedded in that item is all the information necessary to draft on the appropriate level or layer the appropriate color and style for that water line. So when I laid it out, I didn't actually lay out and draw it on the appropriate level. It's now going to be drawn on the appropriate level when I click apply. So I'll click 1, and again that's for quantity purposes too, but also to make sure everybody drafts on the same page. The size of the line is in master units, so I'll key in 1. The clearance, that would be the clearance between this pipe and other pipes for conflict checking purposes, and a depth, so that would be the depth to the top of the pipe from the top of the ground. I'll say 4 feet in this case. And now the profile interval, that's how often along that element we're going to sample the ground and create a point for the pipe. So if I leave it at 0, it would sample ground everywhere along that line that across a triangle within the surface that it's using, the existing ground surface or the design surface, in this case the design. Or I can change it to some other value, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. In my case I'm going to say 50, and it will only take elevation every 50 feet along that element. And as you see, when we profile it, I'll have less profile points used to draw the water line than if I'd have left that profile interval at 0. So 0 essentially would be saying just follow the ground, and any dips or high points, it would pick those up and follow along. Now at this stage I'm ready to click the apply button and have it create the water line in the database, and as you can see on the screen, it will draft or draw an element along the same element that I started with, but it will draw it in the symbology of a 12-inch water line with that pay item information. So that completes the dialog on adding a water line. We will continue to add water lines for the rest of the project. At this point I could close the dialog and go to something else, or if I'm going to add more water lines, we give you icons right here to add a new water line, delete, rename, or ID a water line. I'm going to go ahead and close the dialog, and we'll bring it back up in the next section.